The NHL Four Nations tournament is almost here, and I have a lot of opinions and a lot of bold predictions for this tournament. With Canada, the US, Sweden, and Finland facing off in this tournament, we have a lot to talk about. So, what are my bold predictions for this tournament? How hot and spicy do my takes get? Well, make sure you watch till the end as we go through everything today and some of my biggest opinions on this tournament and how it'll go. So make sure you watch till the end for that, and subscribe if you're new for more hockey content all throughout this Four Nations tournament and throughout the rest of the year. Now, getting us started with my first bold prediction of the day, it relates to the effort level of this tournament and how much it matters to the players, because I've seen a lot of takes like this from Jeremy saying that the Four Nations is not exciting. At the end of the day, it's the same all-star game in disguise. Effort levels won't match real international competition. And I gotta say, I completely disagree with this. My first bold prediction is that not only will people be surprised by the effort shown in this tournament, I think people are going to be absolutely excited by it by the time we get to the final, especially because I think these players are going to be putting in 110%. The last time we had a full-scale best-on-best tournament was the 2016 World Cup of Hockey, which I thought was amazing. I mean, we all remember the Sweden versus North America overtime, how unbelievable that was. I think we're going to see even more moments like that in this tournament. And I think the factor that a lot of people aren't taking into consideration is that this year's Four Nation tournament is kind of an audition for the 2026 Olympics. Now, this doesn't quite apply to the locks for the Olympics, guys like Connor McDavid, even though I think their effort level will still be there because I think just a best-on-best tournament does matter to these players. Take into account a player like Brandon Hagel, though, who's going to be playing in the bottom six for Canada, is something that I absolutely adore, has been electric for Tampa Bay, but is playing one of his first major tournaments for Canada. And for Hockey Canada, they're going to be getting a good read on him in this tournament to see how ready he might be for next year's Olympics. He's somebody that I would absolutely have there, but especially for a lot of the depth players, guys that aren't the locks, guys that aren't the McKinnons, the McDavids, I think their effort level is really going to surprise people. Hagel's effort level in hockey is already dynamic and already amazing, but I think he is going to have a stellar performance. But I look throughout that lineup and there's so many guys that could really solidify their spots for next year's Olympics. Players like Stone, Jarvis, Hagel, Chiarelli, Bennett. You look at that defense, players like Theodore and Doughty, Morrissey, Parayko, Sanheim. There is a big opportunity here for them to really make a name for themselves, and I don't think they're going to want to pass that up. I think especially for next year's Olympics and how much it matters, the first time we've seen a best-on-best Olympics since 2014, players are going to want to be a part of that, and this is the first step to getting there. You could talk about how it's weird having only 4 teams. You could want a team like Russia or Czechia in there, but in terms of the 4 teams here and the players here, I think they're going to be putting in 110% effort, and I think it's going to be surprising for a lot of people to see just how competitive and just how intense these games are. Now, before I get into my second bold prediction of the day, which is pretty hot, let's first talk about today's sponsor in Mando. I absolutely love that Mando is a sponsor of the channel, though, because I use them almost every single day. When I'm out and about and I have those long days where I can't get home easily, can't control the odor all that easily, Mando has you covered. Considering the 72-hour odor control, plus the fact that it's aluminum free and you can use it on your packages, your feet, your pits, it really does come in clutch. If you guys are looking to get started, just go to shopmando.com and go to the starter pack. You'll get a solid stick deodorant, a spray or cream tube deodorant, as well as a free mini body wash and free wipes. A great deal there, plus free shipping. As a special offer to everyone in the Grav gang, you guys will get $5 off a starter pack with code GRAV. That equates to over 40% off the starter pack using code GRAV at shopmando.com. Using code GRAV helps the channel out a ton, plus you're able to stay fresh. A big thank you to Mando for sponsoring today's video. Now on to the second bold prediction of the day. We go into one that I think is pretty hot. I don't think many people will be expecting this, but at number 2, I think Elias Pettersson is going to lead Sweden's forward group in points and be their main star in the forward group. Now, if you said this a year ago, everybody would have been like, yeah, duh, obviously. But I think now a lot of people have dampened on Elias Pettersson, especially in the offensive side of the game. I think defensively, he's been excellent this year in a lot of key ways, but I don't think that really gets as much attention because the scoring just hasn't been there. Just 11 goals in 49 games, on pace for 53 points this year. He's been a little bit better as of late, but still not the Pettersson that we truly deserve. But to me, I think this Four Nations tournament is really going to change things. I think in Sweden's forward group, he is going to get a lot more confidence there, really a lot better weapons. I think one of the biggest issues in his time with Vancouver recently has been the lack of winger symmetry and the chemistry that he's been able to get there. It just really hasn't been the same since Kuzmenko has fallen off. And I think in Sweden's forward group, with the core they have there, with some of the speed that he has as well to work with, I think Pettersson is going to do quite well. Even if the scoring isn't quite there, I think the defensive game is going to be a massive weapon for Sweden that they will be utilizing. They have a pretty good offensive forward group, but I think Pettersson could definitely be a leader in the defensive side of things, and especially going up against teams like Canada and the US, they're going to need it. But I think Sweden has a pretty underrated roster, and if Pettersson unlocks that full potential, I think they have a shot at doing some major damage here. Really, the big thing for them might just be the health, especially in the goaltending side of things. They've been decimated that way with players like Jacob Markstrom and Linus Ullmark being questionable, Markstrom being out completely. We'll see what ends up happening there, but the defense is solid. I think the forward group has potential, and we'll see if they can unlock it. Now, going on to my third bold prediction of the day, this one I don't think will affect too much when it comes to the actual winner in the end, because personally, I think Canada still has the best chance. But I will say, I think their defense, if there's going to be any issue, might be it, because I think we've seen a lot of questionability about the goaltending side of things, whether a player like Aiden Hill or Jordan Binnington is the guy, how much that'll be good for them. I think personally the goaltending will be fine in this situation. That's kind of another bold take for me, but I think the defense might be a little bit interesting here because, of course, you got the top pair, which I don't think is going to have any issues. Taves, Makar, they're going to be amazing. Outside of that, though, I think is where things get tricky. You look outside of that top pair, and to me, some of the defensive players on the team are, I think, going to be an interesting case here, because I think you're going to have players like Parayko, Doughty, Sanheim in more defensive roles, but are they up to the task? I think that might be a little bit of a questionable thing here. Parayko at this stage in his career, I just don't think is all that. Drew Doughty, after coming back from injury, has been horrible for the LA Kings. So unless that's just a blip and he's able to rebound from that, I think he might have some issues in this tournament. Travis Sanheim, I think, could potentially get into the lineup. I think he's solid, but again, isn't up to that unbelievable tier that Canada might need. When you look at the offensive options, players like Makar, Morrissey, Theodore, they check all the boxes. I think they'll be fantastic. But the defensive side of things here, the decor, I think might create some issues. Personally, though, with how much players like Makar are going to possess the puck, with how good that forward group is, I don't know how much it'll actually matter in the end, especially versus teams like Finland and Sweden. But if it is to be a US-Canada final in the matchup there, I could see the US potentially exposing some of those flaws. We'll have to wait and see there, but that's, I think, the biggest question to me for this Canada roster. Now, as my fourth bold prediction of the video, let's go on to Team Finland, who I think a lot of people are underestimating, and to me, rightfully so. I think I'm going to have to underestimate them a little bit more, honestly. Even though I love my Finns, I think the goal scoring is going to be a massive issue here. I think we've seen a lot of people talk about the defense, and rightfully so. But to me, I think the biggest issue with Finland's defense is not even just the injuries, it's because of the guys they have to bring back in. There are a lot more defensive presences. You look at that entire defense, and who's going to be moving the puck effectively? Olli Mata, maybe. Juuso Välimäki, maybe. But I don't think, especially in Välimäki's case, he's been very good this year. If he's your first power play guy, I think Finland's going to have a lot of issues, especially when it comes to moving the puck. The forward group has some great weapons, obviously. Players like Barkov, Rantanen, players like Aho. I think they will do solid in their own rights, but in terms of getting the puck up, especially versus some of these strangling defenses like Sweden and the US, I think goals are going to be especially hard to come by. I think the goaltending and the actual defensive structure, the two-way play, especially from the forward group, is going to be amazing, but the goal scoring, I have some concerns with. Especially when you look at some of the guys who will have to be the goal scorers. Guys like Patrick Laine have been really rough over the last month. Players like Mikko Rantanen haven't really fit well within the Carolina Hurricanes system either. You have a lot of guys who I think are going to have to be the guys that just haven't been performing well lately, and to me, I think my bold prediction is that they're going to be scoring a goal per game. I just don't really see much offense coming out of this team, and I think that'll be the reason why they end up failing in the end. Unfortunate, because I think injuries especially really damper this. If they have a player like Miro Heiskanen on the back end, I think that makes things a lot better, but because he's out especially, I think Finland's going to have a tough time. Now, as my fifth bold prediction for the four nations, it took a while for me to get into Team USA, but I have a couple of big ones for them. Starting things out, though, this one I think is quite a bit hot because I've seen this player be rejected and be put on the blast, really, for a while now since he was named to the Four Nations roster, and that is Chris Kreider. My fifth bold prediction is that I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong in this tournament. You look throughout, and really, he hasn't gotten much opportunities besides the World Juniors and the World Championships, but whenever he's played for the US, he's been pretty dang impactful, especially when you look at the 2018 World Championships, 10 points in 10 games there. He's always been a pretty consistent player internationally, and I think in this tournament, he will do some damage. I don't think he's going to be amazing or anything. I don't think he's going to be a goal per game, but I think especially on the power play, he's going to provide some good tapping ability that they do desperately need, especially with a player like Joe Pavelski, who might have been on the roster if he wasn't retired. Kreider is going to have to come up in that big role, especially in the power play, banging and crashing, getting pucks in as much as humanly possible, and I think he will do the job there. Sure, I would have preferred to play like a Tage Thompson or especially a Cole Caufield, but I think Kreider is still valuable in his own right, still has things he can give, and he has been better as of recent for the Rangers, so he does have some momentum coming in. And I'm just gonna say it, even though I saw a lot of people laughing that Kreider was a part of this team, he brings still a lot of experience, and I think in those important moments, Kreider's always seemed to come up big, and I think he will for the US as well. Now on to my 6th bold prediction, we go on to Canada yet again, and this is a player that I have high hopes for in this tournament. If we're talking about MVP, most valuable player, I have a little bit of a hot take for it. I think it's gonna end up being Sam Reinhart of the Florida Panthers. For one, we've already seen him locked in on that first power play unit with players like Makar, McKinnon, Crosby, and McDavid, which makes a lot of sense because Reinhart has been one of the most prolific goal scorers over the last couple of years. You look at the production, you look at the consistency, he has been a complete beast for the Florida Panthers, especially over the last 2 seasons where the goal scoring has been among the best in the NHL. I think Reinhart is going to really open up a lot of eyes. Even though he's been an elite player for a while, I think this tournament is going to truly cement that. With the top dogs, Reinhart is going to be the perfect complementary offensive goal scoring piece, and especially on the power play, I think he is going to feast. He's had some pretty clutch goals as well in the playoffs over the last couple of years, and I could see a couple big ones as well as we get to the final, and as Canada, I think, likely wins this thing. Now, a big reason why I think Canada will win is just because of some of the inefficiencies on that US roster. One of them that I don't think is a problem, at least when you look at it, is the goaltending. But going on to my 7th bold prediction, this one relates to Jake Oettinger and Connor Hellebuyck. For my 7th and last bold prediction of the day, I think Connor Hellebuyck is going to lose his starter job to Jake Oettinger midway through the tournament. And this is one that is just a lot based on vibes, really, and I understand that. But I feel like Hellebuyck has never quite been the clutch goaltender you want him to be, especially when you look at some of the best seasons that Hellebuyck has had. When you look at the .922 save percentage he had, not the greatest playoffs after that. When you look at the last 2 seasons of fantastic performances, a .920 and .921 save percentage, not great performances in the playoffs. And I think in Hellebuyck's case, he hasn't yet proved himself as that big game clutch goaltender yet. This could be the opportunity to do so, but I feel like it's going to be yet another playoff type of Hellebuyck. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it's been the last couple of years. I think he'll be okay, but not good enough to be the full-time starter. I think Oettinger eventually is going to come in relief, play fantastic for the US, and even though I'm biased as a Dallas Stars fan, eventually be the starter. I still think the US will eventually lose to Canada in the final, but I think Oettinger, by the time the tournament is over, will have been the US's starter. And we've seen Oettinger have big game performances all over the place, whether it be in the NHL playoffs, the NCAA, the World Juniors, the World Championships. Oettinger has been great all throughout, and I think there's a big case we made that he's the better clutch goaltender. We'll see what ends up happening, but I think Oettinger is going to be the starter by the time the tournament is over. But those are my bold predictions for the 2025 Four Nations tournament, and I want to hear your thoughts down below on what you guys agree with, what you guys disagree with, and what are your bold predictions for this tournament? Who do you see winning the MVP? Who do you see winning it by the end? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, should with all the hockey fans you guys know online, click that like button, click that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and click on this card as well for all of my, I guess, hockey prospects talk right in one playlist. And also, of course, use my code GRAV when you go to shopmando.com. A big thank you to Mando for sponsoring today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic Four Nations tournament, everyone, and goodbye.